The spoon hovered in the air, tobacco shaking like it knew what was coming. He hadn't even stepped fully onto the porch, one boot on the plank, one still inside. Then he saw it. The baby was asleep, curled into the leather like it was a cradle, like it had always been his. Blanket thin, frayed, face half covered, breathing soft, steady like nothing in the world was wrong. But there was a note, folded once, wedged against the baby's chest. He didn't touch it, not yet. He just stared. Then the spoon clinked to the porch boards. He didn't hear it land. He stepped closer, real slow, a kind of slowness only men do when they already know what's waiting. The boot was his old one, Army issued, left behind years ago, should have been buried with the rest, but it sat there clean, like someone had polished it, like someone meant for it to hold her. He knelt. The wood creaked under his knee. The baby twitched, tiny fingers curling at the cold. He looked around. No sound but the wind, no footsteps, no horse, no one. The front gate hung crooked. The road past it was empty, always had been. He reached out, picked up the note. One line. "You promised once. Don't break it now." That was her handwriting. He folded it shut like it bit him. Then he picked the child up. She didn't cry. She looked at him, didn't blink, didn't smile. Her eyes were the same color as the ink on that paper, faded black, maybe once blue, like someone who forgot how to be new. He carried her inside, quiet, put her down on the kitchen table, didn't even brush off the dust first. She didn't care. The room looked the same. Walls the color of paper left out in the rain. The cupboard door is still unhinged. Everything smelled like wood rot and old coffee. He leaned against the wall and stared. 15 minutes passed. Then he took the note and held it to the stove flame. It didn't catch. He held it longer. It curled, browned, then burned slowly, like it had something to say before dying. He watched every second of it. The baby made a sound, not a cry, more like a grunt, like a warning. He turned. She kicked once, then still again. He walked to the sink, run water, splashed it on his face. Didn't help. His hands shook. He pressed them to the basin till his knuckles went white. Then he said it. First word all morning. "God damn you." He wasn't sure if he meant her or her. The baby made no reply. He opened the cupboard, found a cracked tin mug, poured the last of the black coffee. No heat in it, drank anyway. The baby shifted again, blanket slipping from her shoulder. There, a mark on her collarbone. Not a bruise. A stitch, hand done. Black thread, same kind she used when she stitched his name into the inside of his shirts. His name. He turned away. He opened the shed. The air smelled like oil and damp bark. The place hadn't seen a child since his brother's boy played hide-and-seek here. And that boy was on the ground now. 4 winters. He laid down a stack of feed sacks, put the baby on them, left the blanket on. She blinked, didn't cry. I didn't sleep either. She looked at him like she knew his name. He pulled the door shut slowly, bolted it from outside. Not locked, just shut. Back inside, he sat, didn't speak, didn't move. The sun rose higher, noon passed. He hadn't eaten, couldn't. He stared at the baby boot on the porch, still there, still waiting. Afternoon. He lit a match, sat by the window, read the back of a cigarette box. No words on it he hadn't read before, but he read it again. The door creaked, not the wind. He stood. I opened it. No one there, only the wind through the tall grass. He stepped out, walked to the road, looked both ways. Long stretch of nothing, same as always. Except the footprints, one set, barefoot, leading away. He followed, just to the bend, stopped where the grass dipped near the fence post. Kneeling there was a button, black, plastic. He picked it up, rubbed it once with his thumb, then put it in his pocket. I walked back home slowly. Inside again, he opened the drawer under the stove, pulled out a shoebox, still taped shut, tore it open. Inside, a letter, unopened, a tiny red ribbon, and a photo. She was holding a baby. Not this baby, another, smaller, wrapped in the same damn blanket. He never got to hold that one, didn't even ask. Now here she was, or someone like her. And that woman, the one who wrote the note, she was supposed to be dead. Night came quiet. He opened the shed. She was still breathing, still awake. He picked her up again. She didn't resist. He rocked her once, twice, then sat on the porch and said, "You ain't mine." She didn't blink. "I buried that promise." She gurgled. "I ain't your anything." She reached for his shirt collar. He didn't move. He just sat. I watched the sky go dark and whispered, "But I opened the damn door." Morning came with no birds, just the sound of something small shifting in its sleep inside a shed that wasn't meant to keep things alive, but he'd opened it anyway. The shed door stuck halfway. He shoved harder, shoulder to wood, and it opened with a crack like bone. Inside, it smelled of wet ash and rusted wire, old sawdust, hickory bark, smoke that never left. He laid her down on a folded feed sack. The blanket was thin. She wriggled once, no real cry yet. Just a small sound, like breath getting used to the cold. He looked around. Nothing soft, nothing clean, just cracked beams in a dirt floor that hadn't been swept since his brother died. The baby blinked up at him, still quiet. He stepped back, hand on the door. "You'll be fine here," he said. He didn't believe it. He shut the door and slid the bolt across. It clanked. Back inside, he went straight to the stove, pulled out the drawer underneath. Inside was nothing but ash and a matchbox. He sat hard in the old chair, pulled the note from his pocket. Same paper, same hand, small and tight. She always wrote like she was scared someone would read it. "You promised once. Don't break it now." He ran his thumb over the edge, then struck the match. The flame was low, shy. He held the note to it. Watch it catch slow, then curl. He dropped it into the stove's mouth and watched until it was black. The baby cried once, just once. He didn't move. She cried again, shorter. Then silence. He stood up. I looked out the window, sun bleeding down behind the hill. The sky is turning gray-blue. No one is coming. He walked to the back of the house where the sink dripped and the wallpaper peeled. Opened the cabinet above. Nothing but a cracked mason jar and a spool of old thread. The thread was black. He touched it, stiff. The spool fell and rolled. He let it. He sat again, elbows on knees, face in his hands. Memory came like rot, a grave, half dug, rain, her voice behind him, sharp. "You said you'd help me." He kept digging. Her hands were wrapped in a quilt, the same one he burned last winter. She stood there like she didn't know what the hole was for. "Promise me," she said. He didn't answer. The baby cried again, louder now. He flinched. He opened the door, stepped into the cold, crossed the yard, grass high at the edges, soft from rain. He paused outside the shed, waited. Silence again. He unbolted it. The door swung with a slow groan. She was still on the sack, but turned now, face pressed to the wood, a damp patch near her mouth. One hand stretched out like she'd been trying to reach something. He stepped in. I looked around. Still nothing soft. Still nothing right. He knelt, tucked the blanket under her better. Her eyes opened, not crying now, just watching him. Like she remembered something. "You ain't her," he whispered. "You're not." She blinked. He backed out, closed the door. Didn't bolt it this time. Inside, the kitchen smelled like cold grease and sawdust. He didn't light a lamp, just sat again. The spool was still on the floor. He picked it up, rolled it between his palms. Black thread. Her color. Always said it hid things better than white. He looked at the chair across from him. The same one she sat in. Needle in her lap. Baby in the cradle. No cradle now. No needle. Not her. He stood. Crossed the room. I opened the drawer by the sink. Found a knife. Small. Bone handle. He held it. Didn't move. The baby cried again. Short and sharp. He put the knife down. He lit a second match. Hold it near the wall. Light flickered. On the paneling, near the baseboard, were scratches. Tiny. Carved with something dull. One of them was a name. Etta. He pressed a thumb to it. Then I walked out. Back at the shed, the door was open. The wind had done it. Or maybe not. He stepped inside. She was turned again, flat on her back, looking at the roof. He knelt, touched the blanket, then picked her up. She didn't resist. He carried her back across the yard real slow. Inside, he laid her in a drawer he pulled from the bureau, lined it with a shirt. She didn't cry. He sat beside her on the floor. I watched her breathe. She fell asleep with one hand on her chest. He watched her chest rise and fall, real slow. Then he whispered, "She said I'd forget." The baby moved a little. She was right. In the night, the wind came harder. The shed door creaked, and from deep under the floor, something knocked back. He heard the gate creak just after noon. A single rusted groan. Then silence. Not the wind. Not this time. He stepped onto the porch slowly, wiped his hands on his shirt. The hammer in his palm stayed quiet. She was leaning against the fence like she'd been there all morning. Arms crossed, dress gray at the edges, ash down the sleeves, a long black braid slung low over her shoulder. She didn't blink when he stepped closer. "You're not supposed to be out here," he said. "Neither's a baby in a boot," she answered, his jaw tensed. "You with the law?" "I ain't with anyone." "Are you looking for work?" "Don't need it." "You lost?" She stared at the shed behind him. Heard crying. "There's foxes out here," he said. "That wasn't no fox." He didn't speak. "You think hiding her in a smokehouse'll change who she is?" He stepped down from the porch. "You got a name?" She didn't answer. "You one of hers?" "Don't know who she is." "You're on my land." She tapped the post beside her. "I'm on this side." His eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" "That boot." He froze. "I've seen it before," she said, "back when it had to." "Could have been any man's." "No." She tilted her head. "Yours was left behind." He didn't move. She kept it on the mantel. "You never went to her house." "She told me things." "She told everyone things." "She said if anything happened, to watch this place." "You were a child." "Still watched." He looked away, scratched the back of his neck. "She said you owed her." "I owed a lot of people. She died thinking you'd come back." He stepped closer to the fence. "You got proof of anything?" "I got ears, I got eyes, and I have a memory that doesn't shake easily." He glanced back toward the shed. The latch hung loose. "She's got the same cry," the woman said. "Is that so?" "And the same eyes." "She's a child." "Didn't say she wasn't." "She doesn't belong here." The woman nodded once. "Neither do you." He stepped away. "Don't walk off." He stopped. "I ain't here to fight," she said. "Then say your piece and go." "She left you that note." "Didn't." "She?" He said nothing. "Folded tight, same slant in the letters, real narrow." He looked down. "She asked you to keep a promise." "Promises break," he muttered. "Only when the man who made 'em does." He turned. "Are you judging me now?" "Number just don't want her to end up like the last one." He walked toward the porch. "You got a way of talking in circles. You got a way of pretending your hands are clean." He stopped on the steps. "I buried her." "She ain't the only one gone." He opened the door. "You gonna lock her up forever?" The woman called. "She's safe. For now. She got food. She got blankets. She doesn't have a name." He turned halfway. "You think you know it?" "I think I knew her." He held the door open. Waited. The woman didn't move from the fence, just leaned harder. "Go on then," he said. "Say it." She pointed to the shed. "That boot ain't yours." "Never was." He didn't deny it, just stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He stood in the kitchen, palms on the counter, breath tight. Outside, the wind picked up. Inside the shed, the baby cried. He didn't move. Night came fast. He lit a single oil lamp and sat in the chair nearest the window. The woman was still out there. Same spot, same braid. Hands now in her pockets. She didn't move when the light flickered across her face. Didn't blink when the baby cried again. He stared at her through the glass. She stared back. Neither spoke. The lamp hissed. He stayed seated. She stayed waiting. And in the dark behind him, the house breathed slowly, like it remembered what he'd buried underneath. The knock came at dusk. 2 slow taps. Not urgent, not polite. Just enough to say, "I know you're in there." He stood at the sink, hands wet, eyes on the window above the basin. The last of the light bent low through the trees. He didn't move until the second knock came. Same rhythm, same weight. He opened the door. The man on the porch wasn't in uniform, no hat, no badge, just a brown coat and boots too clean for this town. "Evening," the man said. "You're early for trouble." The man smiled. "Or late." He didn't answer. "You still answer Calder?" He said nothing. "Figured not." The man stepped closer. "You gonna ask who I am?" "I remember your face." "Then you remember what came after it." He leaned against the post. Eyes flicked past him toward the shed. He shifted to block the view. Wasn't expectin' visitors. Wasn't expectin' to come. The man rubbed his jaw. But the town's got eyes again. Shame, huh? What do you want? Just passing through. Nobody passes through here. Exactly. He glanced again toward the shed. Does she cry much? You hear foxes. I know a fox cries. That ain't it. You hear wrong. The man pulled something from his pocket, set it gently on the porch rail. A badge, old tin, bent corner, dull edge. He didn't reach for it. Thought you weren't law no more. I ain't, the man said, but I remember what it feels like. Are you here to ask questions? I'm here to remind you. Of what? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of the things folks forget too easily. I won't forget. Sure you do. We all do. He looked down at the badge again. Is this supposed to scare me? Not scared, just nudge. Toward what? The man's gaze settled on the ground. Toward remembering what's yours and what ain't. He stepped closer, voice low. She got her eyes. Don't. She cried too. I said don't. The man raised his hands, backing off. All right. She ain't her. Number but someone left her for you. Someone made a mistake. Or someone knew you still had space in you. I buried her. No one said you didn't. He stepped down one stair, then paused. Funny how things circle back. You're not welcome here. Didn't come for welcome. Then say what you came for. I came to look in your eyes and see if you'd admit it. Admit what? That you broke her. He clenched his jaw. The man looked back at the tin. The town's changed. A lot of names are gone. Yours don't show up in the book anymore. I like it that way. The only thing is, some folks don't stay buried. You done. Almost. The man leaned in one last time. You owe, Calder, whether or not you want to say it out loud. He turned to go. Wait, Calder said. The man stopped. You still wearing that badge? The man shook his head. Just carry it now. Weight's lighter that way. Who else knows? The man didn't turn back. You think you're the only one who got a note? A long silence. Then he walked down the steps, boots quiet, on the dirt. When he was halfway down the road, Calder called out, She's just a child. The man didn't stop walking. So was the last one. He waited until the footsteps faded. Then he picked up the badge. I turned it over. On the back, scratched deep, UO. He stood there a long time, thumb pressed against the word. He looked toward the shed. Lights off. No crying now. He went inside, set the badge down on the table. Stared at it like it might speak. He poured a drink, sat at the edge of the bed. The wood groaned under him. His hand trembled just slightly as he brought the glass to his lips. He dreamt of the smokehouse. Not the shed now, but back then, when the door didn't creak, when the latch was new. She was standing there, apron dirty, hands stained from berries or blood. He couldn't tell which. She was holding something small, wrapped tight. You promised, she said. He shook his head. You said if anything happened. He turned away in the dream, but her voice followed. You swore, Calder, right there, on the ground. He opened his eyes. The lamp was still burning. He stood, crossed the room, opened the drawer beneath the sink, pulled out a key wrapped in cloth. He hadn't touched it in years. He walked outside. The wind had dropped. The air is thick. He stopped at the shed, listened. Quiet. He slid the key into the lock. I turned it slowly. The hinges groaned. The baby was awake, watching him. No sound, no smile, just eyes like ink and something older than fear. He stepped in, knelt beside her, spoke low. I didn't forget you. She blinked once. I just thought maybe I could outlive it. She reached up, grabbed the fabric of his shirt, small hands, steady grip. He didn't pull away. The badge was still on the table behind them, waiting. And somewhere beyond the field, someone else was already walking back. The baby had been crying for over 2 hours. He'd tried milk, then warm water, rocked her once, then again, held her against his chest, heart tight and tired. Nothing worked. She screamed with her whole body. No breaks, just gasps and rage. He stood in the doorway, fists clenched. You ain't hungry. You're not cold. What do you want? She didn't stop. He looked around the room. Nothing to offer, nothing soft, Nothing that held comfort, just the cracked floorboards beneath his feet and the drawer she was lying in. She coughed on her own cry, gasped again. He dropped to his knees, run a hand under the bed, then under the stove. Nothing. Then he saw it. The warped board under the rocker, the one that always sat wrong. He grabbed the edge and pried it up with the claw end of the hammer. Dust rose. Something wrapped in cloth sat nestled in the gap. He reached down and pulled it out. Muslin tied with thread, thin, worn. He sat on the floor, laid it across his knees, untied the knot. Inside was a small quilt. Not clean, not fresh, but hand-stitched. Brown blocks faded to near gray. Blue stars nearly gone. And names. He touched the first one with his thumb. Josie. Then the next. May. Miriam. Anna. Dovie. Ruth. June. And Etta. His hand froze. The baby cried louder. He rose fast, quilt in his grip, and walked to her. She was still red-faced, fists curled tight. He laid the quilt over her. She stopped mid-sob, blinked, then reached for the corner with her mouth, chewed the thread like it was candy. He dropped to his knees beside her, panting. "You know that?" he whispered. She didn't answer, just sucked the edge. He stared at the name again. Etta. She said she kept things, he said quietly. Said if something happened, there'd be something to find. He ran his fingers over the stitches. Each name was small, tight, like a secret. He flipped the quilt. On the back, more stitching, fainter, dates. Each name had a date, none of them after 4 years ago. He ran his thumb down the center. 8 names, 8 girls. He folded the quilt. I walked to the kitchen table, spread it out, pressed it flat. The thread was black, stitched in a hand he remembered. She always sewed like it hurt. Kept safe, kept small, he read. He closed his eyes. That's what she used to say. When she stitched little dresses, when she packed things away. He opened them again, flipped the quilt back, looked at Dovie. Her date matched the year the sheriff's niece vanished in spring. He stared at the name. The air shifted. He stepped away from the table. I walked to the cupboard, pulled down the wooden box. I opened it. Inside were a tin cup, a folded cloth, a matchbook, and a photograph. He lifted the photo. Etta standing beside a wooden cradle, one hand resting on the rail. A child swaddled, but blurred. No face, no date. He turned it over. Nothing written. He set it down. Under the cloth, a small paper folded tight. He opened it. If she gets quiet, it's because she knows. He read it twice, then walked to the stove, lit a match, and dropped the paper in. I watched it burn. The baby let out a small sound, not a cry, a hum. He walked back. She looked up at him, one hand gripping the quilt. "You remember her?" he asked. The wind groaned through the walls. He sat beside her. "She wrote your name." The baby didn't blink. He reached for the quilt, pulled it just enough to see the corner, a small red thread in the very bottom, separate from the rest. For him. He stared at it, then back at her. "No name," he whispered. "Just me?" She kicked softly. He stood, took the quilt, and laid it over the table again, ran his hands across the cloth, stared at every name, 8 children, then one message meant for him. He traced the last few stitches, the ones almost invisible, on the far edge, away from the others. A tiny cross. He pulled the candle closer. "Hold it up." The fabric had a faint seam, something stitched inside. He grabbed the knife from the drawer, slit the seam open. Inside was another piece of muslin, rolled tight. He pulled it free, unfolded it. A list, first names, locations, dates, all girls, all missing. A second list on the back, 4 more names. One was crossed out. Dovie, recovered, unspoken. He dropped the cloth, backed away from the table. His hands were shaking. He walked to the window. Dark had come. Beyond the trees, nothing moved. Behind him, the baby made a soft coo. He turned slowly. She was holding the edge of the quilt again, pulling it close. "You knew all along," he said. The house creaked. He picked her up, held her against his chest. She didn't resist. "You're hers." She rested her cheek against him. He carried her to the chair, sat down, rocked. She stitched the truth into cloth, he said. The floor beneath him moaned. The walls settled. The lamp flickered once, then stilled, and somewhere under the boards, something let go. The pit sat where the trees thinned out, just past the fence line, down the slope, where the grass never grew right. He dug it with his own hands, piled up old wood, dry limbs, bark that peeled like paper, laid them crisscrossed like a pyre. The quilt sat folded across his arm, names inward, stitching hidden. The baby hadn't cried all night, just watched him, eyes wide, like she knew what he was planning. He didn't take her with him. He walked slowly through the woods. No wind, no birds, only the sound of footfall on dead leaves. At the pit, he knelt, set the quilt down on the ground like it still meant something, then reached for the matches. You always burn what you don't want to face. He turned quick. She stood at the tree line. Same braid, same ash-stained sleeves. He didn't speak. "Go on," she said. "I'm not here to stop you." "How long have you been following me?" "Long enough." "You dig through my house, too." "No need. You left what mattered in plain sight." He turned back to the pit. She stepped closer. "You think fire'll fix what you did? I didn't do nothing. That quilt says otherwise." He struck the match. I watched the head flare orange. She didn't flinch. "I ain't her father. Number but she gave you the quilt." "I didn't ask." Didn't stop her. He held the flame to the edge. The fabric caught, smoked, but I didn't curl. "You remember the girls you didn't bury," she said, "or just the ones you loved?" He turned. "What did you say?" "You heard me." "I dug graves." "You walked away before the dirt settled. You think you know what it was like?" "I know what it felt like." He turned back to the fire. Hold the quilt higher. Smoke rose again, this time thicker. She stepped to the edge of the pit. "Have you ever asked her why she stitched their names?" "No." "Have you ever asked where she found them?" "No." "She told you, didn't she? Before she died?" He said nothing. The match burned to his fingers. He dropped it. "Story goes," she said, "there was a man. Everyone trusted him, gave him land, horses, even prayers, thought he'd protect them. I ain't that man. He let women vanish. That wasn't me. She trusted him. I didn't hurt her. But you didn't stop what came after." He reached for another match. "She told me something," the woman said. He paused. "She said if anything happened to her, he'd pretend it didn't, that he'd bury what he had to, and burn what he couldn't." He didn't turn. "You know why the quilt won't burn." He struck the match. "Because the truth's stitched in." He threw it. The match landed on the quilt. Smoke poured fast, then stopped. The fabric sat still. No flame, no curl, just black ash ringing the name Etta. He knelt, touched it. Warm, not burned. He looked up at her. "What is this? You think it's just a blanket?" "It's cloth. It's a record." He stood. She didn't move. Why come now? Because she asked. She's dead. She's louder now than she ever was. He looked down at the pit. "Tell me what she told you." "She said you'd come here with the quilt, that you'd try to burn it, that it wouldn't work." "She says why?" "Because you're not done." He stepped back. "Each name's a girl who vanished." "I figured that. She found what the town wouldn't look for." "Where?" "She never told me, but she left marks." "What marks?" "On the earth, in the well, behind the barn." He looked back toward his house. The roof is just visible through the trees. "She said when you were ready, you'd see it." He knelt again, flipped the quilt, touched the corner. There, small and faded, a single word stitched behind Dovie's name. "Well, she marked where she found her? Or where she put her?" the woman said. He looked up. "You think she—" "I don't know what she did." He stood. "But you think I deserve this?" "I think you need to finish it." He grabbed the quilt, folded it rough. I turned to walk. She didn't follow. "You know what scares you?" she said. He stopped. "You're afraid she trusted you more than she should have." He looked over his shoulder. "Are you afraid too?" "I ain't the one holding the dead." He walked off. The trees didn't rustle, but behind him the fire pit smoked again, without flame, without wind, just ash, curling toward the trees. The town hall sat empty. No light, no lock, just silence and dust like it had been waiting for him. He pushed the door open slowly. Hinges moaned, same as they did years back when this building still held votes, marriages, and lies. Now it just holds names. The floorboards under his boots. The front desk was split down the middle, paper ledgers stacked beside it like forgotten tombstones. He walked past the filing cabinets, past the row of chairs no one sat in anymore, straight to the back, where the ledger was kept. Sheriff's book. He found it under a tarp. Same cracked leather cover, same crooked binding. The year scratched into the edge, 74 to present. He set it down on the desk, cleared the dust with his palm. I opened it. Names. First pages in black ink, sharp and square. Births, deaths, fines. He flipped. Names turned lighter, pencil, some crossed out, some are rewritten, others ghosted under eraser marks. He scanned fast. There, near the bottom of the right page, Etta Lane, black ink, then crossed out in red. Beside it, written smaller, infant. Returned, he. Froze. Leaned closer. Touched the word returned. The ink bled slightly. Not dry. He flipped the page back. I looked again. Etta Lane. No date of death. No burial record. Just crossed out. Like someone wanted her name erased, but couldn't quite manage. He looked up. The room felt colder. He flipped forward. Later pages, sparse entries, Josie Finch, missing, Dovey, infant, ledger closed, May Cartwright, reclassified, June, claimed by Ward, Anna, burial denied, Miriam G., partial, entry failed. He flipped again. Bottom corner, his own name, Calder Price, marked not as father, not as relative, but as a keeper. He stepped back. No, he said under his breath. He stared at the page. I didn't ask for this. He looked down the hall, then back to the book, and felt it. Eyes. He turned. She was there. The woman from the fence. Same braid. Same ash-stained coat. You opened it, she said. I had to. You thought she was gone. She is. Ledger says otherwise. He pointed at the entry. I'm not a keeper. You kept her. I didn't know. She did. He closed the book. She left me that baby, not this. She left you the truth. He stared at her. You knew she'd show up? I knew she'd end up where it mattered. She trusted me? She left you a name. He pointed at the ledger. This isn't a name. It's a record. Same thing in this town. He stepped toward her. Why are you always there? Because someone has to be. For what? To remind you what matters when no one else remembers. He opened the book again, pointed to infant, returned. You see that? She nodded. She brought her back? She never left her. She knew what they'd do. So she gave her to someone who couldn't look away. He ran a hand through his hair. I don't want this. Don't change it. She didn't even ask. She never had to. He flipped more pages, saw more names. All girls. All gone, most without a single sentence. Just status, denial, removed, misfiled. Why's this still here? Because no one ever came to take it. She was trying to record them. She was trying to keep them. He stared down at his name. You knew about this. I helped stitch it into the quilt. He looked up fast. What? She couldn't get them all into the book, so she put them in fabric, one place or another. She made sure they wouldn't vanish. He took a step back. You're not just watching. No. You're part of this. We all were, back then. You stitched names. Mine, too. He turned to the back wall. There were old records pinned there, faded photos, school pictures, one of Etta holding a child he didn't recognize. Is that— No, she said. That one never made it. He stared at the photo. She tried to bury them all herself? Number. She wanted someone else to remember. He looked back at the book, saw his name again. Calder Price. Keeper. He touched the page. Why didn't she just tell me? She did. That note. That child. He shook his head. You remember what she said the day she left? The woman asked. He looked at her. She said you weren't cruel. Just quiet. Too quiet. He sat down. Hard. On the edge of the desk. She said if you didn't speak, you'd end up keeping what others threw away. He ran a hand over his mouth. The woman stepped closer, held out a folded piece of paper. He took it. I opened it. Inside, a small square of quilt, red stitching at the corner. Ledger won't hold them all, so I gave them to you. E. He folded it slowly. She knew I'd come here. She knew the town would make you. He closed the ledger. Now what? Now you decide if you keep pretending. He looked toward the door. She said the real book was in the house. The woman added. He turned. What? She stitched more names than these. In the walls? In the well. He didn't speak. She walked to the door. I opened it. A cold wind rushed in. Before leaving, she looked back once. She chose you for a reason. She never did anything without meaning. He watched her go. Then I looked at the ledger one last time and saw what had been added while he wasn't looking. Beneath his name, one more line, written in red ink. Return complete, ledger open. He shut the book, and this time he locked the door behind him. She stood at the tree line like she'd never moved. Same braid, same boots, same silence. He came with the baby pressed against his chest, the quilt folded tight under his arm. You said it's time, he said. She nodded. Been time. You waited. Didn't have to. He glanced back toward the house. Where is it? You already know. He didn't argue. She turned and walked. No trail, no words, just thick woods and memory. He followed slowly, boots sinking into soft earth. Leaves crackled. Wind moved sideways through the bare branches. He adjusted the baby. She stirred but didn't cry. Are you sure about this? The woman didn't turn. You don't bring a child out here unless you are. He said nothing. They passed the spot where the fence once stood. Now just rusted posts and a memory of wire. Beyond it, the slope led into the grove, and at the bottom, he saw it. Rocks in a circle, covered in moss, roots curling around them like fingers. The well. He hadn't seen it in over a decade, maybe two. It hadn't changed. Still half sunken, still wrong. He stopped at the edge. You filled it, she said. I helped. With concrete? I mixed it myself. She crouched, ran her fingers across the stone lip. Didn't hold, I figured. Nothing ever does in this town. He looked at her. Etta brought them here. She brought what was left. I didn't know that. She didn't tell you everything. She didn't tell me anything. She stitched what she couldn't say. He looked down at the baby. She stared up at him, not blinking. She knows. She remembers. She's a baby. She's hers. Blood remembers. He stepped forward. What's under it? Names. Bones? She didn't answer. Etta put them here? She couldn't dig graves fast enough. She stitched every name. She carried some, buried some, left the rest to the well. He circled the stones. Town never asked? The town stopped asking the day the sheriff's boy disappeared. I thought he ran. He did, into the trees. He didn't come back. And she brought him here. She brought a part of him. He sat on a stump. The quilt slid down beside him. She said if anything happened to her, she said you'd know where to go. He stared at the stone. The baby shifted in his arms. One hand stretched toward the moss. Is she humming? He listened. A small sound low in her throat. She knows. The woman whispered, I didn't want this. You never wanted much. I wanted quiet. You got it. I wanted peace. You buried it. He looked up. I didn't bury them. But you watched her break. I left. She asked you to stay. I couldn't. Because you knew what was happening. He didn't answer. The woman stepped closer. Well, don't forget. So you said. They hold what the town won't. He picked up the quilt, unfolded it, pointed. 8 names. Those were just the ones she remembered best. There are more? She ran out of thread. He ran his fingers across the red stitching. You ever hear what she hummed while she stitched? He nodded. Same tune she sang to me. She sang it while she burned the dresses. What dresses? The ones they died in. He looked away. She said she'd keep them clean, the woman said, even if the town wouldn't let them rest. He stood. She told you all this. I helped her dig. He stared. She was strong, the woman said. She was broken. She broke for them. He looked at the well. The stones pulsed in the moonlight, not glowing, just breathing. The baby shifted again, hummed louder. She's humming it, he whispered. She's hearing it. I should have stayed. You did. Too late. Better than never. He kneeled beside the stones. The air turned sharp. You think they're still here. They never left. She marked this place. She trusted the well more than she trusted men. He touched the moss. Cold, wet. The woman crouched beside him. She brought the baby here once. Before. When? After Dovey. She was the first? She was the last before the town shut its eyes. He nodded. The baby leaned forward, hand against the rock. Does she feel it? He asked. She sees it. He reached into the quilt, pulled the small hidden pocket. Inside, another name, one he hadn't noticed before. Elsie, stitched so small it looked like a crack. I didn't know this was here. She didn't want you to, until now. He turned to the woman. Who's Elsie? Sheriff's niece. I thought she drowned. She was buried here. He looked down. You helped with that too. The woman shook her head. She carried her alone that night, and the next. She didn't sleep. She never did. He leaned his forehead against the rock. You think it opens? It remembers. That's enough. She said the baby was a warning. She was given a second chance. She said I owed her. You still do. He picked up the baby, held her close. What do I do now? Keep her. That's not enough. Then listen. To what? What they left behind. He sat against the stones. The baby lay against his chest. The woman began to hum again. This time the baby joined in. A soft hum, then a coo, then silence, then the wind shifted. A groan from the stone. Not wind, not memory. A voice beneath. He closed his eyes, and this time he listened. The lock was easy. He hadn't touched the barn door in over 10 years, but the key still worked like it remembered. The chain slipped off the latch like it had been waiting to fall. He pushed the door open. Not slow, not cautious, just ready. The hinges groaned. Dust lifted. Light split through the wood slats and cut lines across the floor. He stepped in and froze. It didn't smell like dust, or hay, or the rot he expected. It smelled like soap and pine. Clean. Be careful. His hand dropped to his side. The baby against his chest made a soft sound. He hadn't brought her in on purpose, but when he turned to leave the house, she reached for him. Wouldn't stop. Now, inside the barn, she went still. He stepped further in. The old barrels were still stacked near the rear wall. A broken pitchfork leaned against the feed bins, but something was off. The hay in the corner was disturbed, smoothed, flattened. He crossed the floor slowly. The light shifted. In the far stall, tucked beside the post beam, sat a cradle. He stopped cold. It was handmade. Simple, clean joints. No nails, just pegs and polish. Same wood as the boot. Same color, same smell. He stepped to it, reached down. Inside, a blanket. Folded, stitched, not like the quilt. This one was newer, tighter. He turned the corner back. 2 initials stitched in. The seam. DL. His breath caught. He picked up the blanket, unfolded it. Inside was a note. Folded once, set flat beneath the cloth. He stared for a long time before touching it. He opened it with 2 fingers. She's not the only one. He stared at the words, felt the cold rise in his spine. He looked around the barn. It wasn't just dust on the walls. There were markings, stitches, red thread in the beams, little X's, names, letters. He turned in a slow circle. The cradle, the blanket, the note, the stitches. This place had been used, recently, deliberately. He stepped back. You hear? He called. No answer, just silence. Then a soft creak above. He looked up toward the loft. The ladder still stood, leaning crooked. He walked to it, climbed slowly. Each rung groaned like it hadn't been touched in years. But the dust was wrong. Too little, disturbed. At the top, he saw a small shelf, a glass jar. He knelt. Inside were buttons, old, mismatched. He pulled the jar closer, names scratched into the back of each with the tip of a nail. Elsie, June, Ruth, Josie, Anna. His hand shook. He dropped the jar. Glass shattered across the wood. He sat hard, breath shallow. She was here, he whispered. He looked toward the far beam. A torn square of muslin hung from a nail. Red thread. One phrase. Ledger failed. Needle one. He stood fast, clambered down the ladder, half-slipped near the bottom, turned in a tight circle, eyes scanning every corner. Are you watching me? He called. Are you writing this too? He walked to the old tack wall, moved the saddle blanket aside. Behind it, more cloth, folded, stacked. Each one stitched. One square read MG, another AM. He reached for one. On the back, the words stitched small. Not the first, not the last. His mouth went dry. Behind him, the cradle creaked. He turned. No one there. The baby pressed against his chest gave a small sound. Not fear, not hunger, just recognition. "You know this place?" he asked her. She blinked. He sat in the dirt, hands on his knees. He didn't speak, didn't move. The barn hummed, the same hum Etta used to make when she stitched in silence. He looked at the rafters. "What were you doing here?" he whispered. "She was keeping them," a voice said behind him. He turned quick. The woman from the fence stood in the doorway. "You followed me. You left the door open. This place was sealed. You sealed it. It was empty." "No," she said. "It never was." He looked around again. The light was thinner now. She stepped inside. He stood. "You knew. I helped her build the cradle. You stitched this." "Some of it." He walked to the blanket. "Hold it up." "DL? Dovey Lane." Her full name. "Yes." "She lived here?" "She hid here." "From who?" "From the ledger." He looked down at the broken jar. "She cataloged them." "No one else would." "Why didn't she tell me?" "You didn't ask." "I would have helped," the woman cut in. "Stayed." He looked away. "She asked you once." "I wasn't ready." "She was." He stepped toward her. "Why are you still here?" "Because they are." He looked at the baby. "She's not the only one." "No," the woman said. "There are others. Alive. Gone. She wanted me to keep her. She wanted you to remember her." He picked up the note. I folded it, put it in his pocket. "I don't know what to do." "You've already done it." "Number not enough." "She trusted you." "I let her die." "She died doing what no one else would." He sat again. The baby hummed. She reached for the broken buttons on the floor. He picked one up. I turned it in. RJ. She kept them close. She gave them names again. He touched the beam. One more thread. Loose. Frayed. She made this barn sacred. She made it safe. He looked at the woman. She stitched their memories into the walls. She stitched it into you. He looked at the child. She smiled. The barn creaked. Not like wood. Like voices. Software steady. The woman nodded toward the cradle. "You lay her down. She'll rest. She hasn't slept all day. She will now." He knelt, placed the baby inside. She didn't cry, just looked up and blinked and closed her eyes. He stepped back. The barn was quiet. The woman didn't move. He whispered. It was never empty. She whispered back, because she never left. And in that silence, he finally understood what it meant to keep. The shed door was open. He didn't leave it that way. He stood still at the edge of the yard, hand on the bolt, listening. The trees didn't move. The chickens weren't clucking. Not even the wind was trying. He stepped forward. Inside, the feed sack was empty. The blanket she'd been swaddled in lay bunched near the back wall, a corner still damp from her breath. She was gone. He circled the shed once. I walked around the back, checked the fence. No tracks, just flattened grass. "Etta," he said quietly. No answer. He returned to the porch. The tin badge still sat on the rail. He'd left it there, unflipped. Now the back had new scratches. One word. Now. He pocketed it and started walking. He didn't take the horse, didn't want wheels or hooves to carry the weight. Just boots and road and time. The town square came into view by midday. Quiet, lined with parked trucks. Everyone is home, but every curtain opened. He turned the last corner and stopped. They were there, every single one, standing silent around the courthouse steps, men with their hats in hand, women holding children close. Nobody speaks. And at the center of the steps, the baby, wrapped in the quilt, alone, placed on the concrete like someone meant her to be seen. Next to her sat the sheriff's ledger, open. Wind tugged the pages. He stepped forward. The crowd parted like water. No one looked at him, but no one turned away either. He climbed one step, then two, knelt. She blinked up at him. No crying, no noise. He touched the quilt, still warm. "She came here alone?" he asked the crowd. No answer. "She walks here by herself?" Still no sound. He lifted her. held her close. She hummed against his chest. Then he looked down at the ledger. One new entry had been written at the bottom of the page. Infant, returned. Witnessed, confirmed. And beside it, in smaller print, property of the kept. He turned to the crowd. What's that mean? A woman near the front stepped forward. He recognized her. Teacher, retired. Once voted most trusted in the district. She said, means the record holds her now. Means she can't disappear again. He scanned the page again. Who wrote this? We all did. Town clerk? Doesn't work weekends. He looked back at the crowd. So, who signed her in? We did, she said again. He stepped up one more stair. Hold the baby higher. You know who she is? We don't need to. You know who she came from? We don't forget, the woman said. He looked down at the baby. She reached out and touched the book's cover. The pen lay beside it. He picked it up, hand steady, flipped 2 pages back, found Etta's name, crossed out in red. He uncapped the pen and wrote beneath it, Etta Lane, keeper of the kept, returned in kind. He let the ink dry. I closed the book. I turned to the crowd. You knew. An older man stepped forward, black jacket, same boots from the winter searches years ago. He said, we always knew. We just didn't have the words for it. She carried the ones you couldn't bury. She carried the ones we wouldn't name. He nodded. That barn was never empty. No, the man said. Neither was she. He looked out over the square. Why today? The teacher said, because you finally walked into town with her. Not away. He turned to the child. She smiled. She's not the only one, he said. We know. He sat on the courthouse steps, baby in his arms, the ledger beside him. She trusted me, he said. Now we're trusting you. He looked up. The woman from the fence was gone. No braid in the wind, no boots near the edge, just smoke on the horizon. The barn. He smelled it before he saw it. He walked back alone. Baby asleep on his shoulder. The smoke thickened as he neared the fields. Black smudges curled against the sky. The air tasted like cedar and old grief. The barn was burning slowly, no flames reaching, just collapse, one beam at a time. He didn't run. He stood at the fence and watched. The roof gave in, then the loft. The cradle inside would be gone by now. The buttons, the thread, the stitched initials, all of it returned to dust. He sat on the fence rail, held her close, rocked her once, then twice. She stirred but didn't wake. He didn't cry. He didn't speak, just listened. And in the smoke he heard it, the hum, software low, carried on the fire, her hum, Etta's, stitching her way home. That night the wind turned, blew cold from the east. He sat on the porch with the baby wrapped tight in the quilt, the badge in one hand, the ledger in the other. He didn't flip it open again. He didn't need to. He'd kept his promise. She'd returned, and the town finally knew what it meant to witness. He didn't sleep that night. The porch boards groaned beneath him every time he shifted. The baby lay against his chest, still wrapped in the quilt, breathing soft and steady. The ledger rested beside him like something alive. Each time the wind stirred, he listened, not for footsteps, for her hum. The fire in the distance finally died down before dawn. The sky turned a pale silver. The barn was gone. All of it. He closed his eyes once. I opened them again. It hadn't changed anything. The smoke still lingered. The badge still sat in his palm. The baby still hadn't cried since she'd been left on the courthouse steps. She had gone quiet, like she knew. When the sun broke, he rose, carried her inside. The house felt different, not emptier, just not haunted. He set her in the drawer beside the stove, tucked the quilt around her. She didn't fuss. She just stared at the ceiling like she remembered every nail in the beam. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her breathe. The badge lay on the counter. The ledger sat on the table. Open again. He didn't open it, but the page had shifted. New ink. One more name written in a hand that wasn't his. Ruth Miller, returned by fire. He blinked, stepped closer. The line had no date. Just the word witnessed beside it, underlined once. He didn't know who had written it. He didn't know how the ledger opened itself. But the book kept writing, and the town kept watching. He walked back to the courthouse before noon, not to speak, just to stand. The crowd wasn't there, but one by one people came, left flowers on the steps, set folded cloth on the railing. One woman placed a boot, tiny, leather, worn. No one said a word. They just looked at him and nodded. No apology, not forgiveness, recognition. Then they walked away. By sundown, he'd gathered 13 pieces of stitched cloth from the courthouse, all initials. Some he knew from the quilt, others he didn't. Each one carried something: dirt, scent, thread, fire. He laid them on the table. One by one, made a row, then two. By midnight, they formed a square. Not a quilt, a map. He stepped back. I looked. Down. There, stitched into the center, were 2 words. She knew. The baby cried once, not loud, just enough to remind him she was there. He picked her up, held her close. She pressed her face to his neck, didn't hum, didn't smile, just breathed. He sat in the old rocking chair, hold her tight, rocked. Outside, the trees swayed slowly. Inside, nothing moved but the 2 of them. When morning came, he found a second note on the porch. No envelope, just folded paper under the tin badge. No handwriting, just typewritten letters. Ledger's not done, neither are you. He looked out at the road. No footsteps, no dust, just silence. He folded the note, put it in his pocket beside the first, then picked up the badge and turned it in his palm. Still bent, still scratched, but heavier now. He didn't ask why, didn't ask who. He just stood, baby in arms, quilt trailing behind him like something holy, and walked to the edge of the property, where the stones began, where the barn once stood, and where the ground still breathed. The ledger would call again. That much he knew. And when it did, he'd answer. Not because he was ready, but because she had asked once. And this time, he would not look away.